Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I'm unboxing the Lenovo ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition. This is going to be an exciting machine because it really builds on or gives you another option from the X1 Carbon, which is arguably one of the best machines on the market, but in a different iteration for the ThinkPad family, because this is, again, a Gen 1 machine. I'll include a link in the description for those of you interested in picking one up. These are available, 4 different models in the 14-inch flavor, I believe 4 different models in the 15-inch variety as well. And they all essentially start at a Ultra 5 chip, go all the way up to Ultra 7, start at a IPS display, work their way up to an OLED display, I believe. Full HD then moves to a 2.8K SKU, which is what we've got here. This Lunar Lake, they're all Lunar Lake models, has 32 gigs of RAM on the chip. Of course, the base models, I believe, are outfitted with 16 gigs. We have an 8 megapixel webcam. And because this is a first-gen product, we also have a brand new design. So you're going to see that in a moment. And I'm curious what all of you are going to think about that design because, again, it is a departure from years past when it comes to ThinkPad. In fact, it's Gen 1 because we've never seen a ThinkPad that's looked quite like this before. It has a 65-watt charger. I'm trying to get it out of the box here for you. And that's not going to be anything crazy. The I/O is not as robust as the X1 Carbon. There's that charger. But I think that this is still going to make a lot of people happy because it just seems like a really nice machine. And because it's got Lunar Lake, that means it's going to be, cool, quiet, and powerful. Even be able to do some gaming. This one has the Arc V140, which means, full HD gaming is absolutely possible. And that's been part of the beauty of Lunar Lake. So a really small charger here. And now get this out of the package. This has already been opened, for those of you that are wondering, by Lenovo's PR team. And in fact, it may have already been reviewed by somebody else. So that's just the nature of things. I'm always explaining that for everyone who thinks I'm getting a brand new machine. Now, you can already see one of the striking things right out of the paper is this bar, and I believe they call it the engine hub. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Just getting all the paper out of the way, all the recycled packaging, and I like that they've done that, gone in that direction. Everybody pretty much is, and they should be. So first things first, this whole design here at the bottom of the chassis, completely new, not just for the ThinkPad lineup, but for Lenovo. And this bar that is essentially where the fans live and the I/O. And you'll see that as I give you a tour of the body. I like this design so far. Come around to the right side of the machine. Nothing, again, on the lid or the chassis. It's all in the hub. So you can see we've got a microphone headphone combo jack right there. Thunderbolt 4-port. Front of the machine, nothing other than the lid lip, which is where that 8 megapixel camera lives. Come around to the other side, again, nothing. Got this, I believe this is the speaker. And then here, again, are the ports from that engine hub. Another Thunderbolt 4-port and your HDMI 2.1 out. I actually happen to think this is kind of cool and maybe really smart, depending on what it does for performance. Now you're finally seeing what the lid looks like. Now, again, for a ThinkPad, this gives me more of like the ThinkBook line vibes in terms of aesthetic. Not grabbing a lot of fingerprints, which is nice. And also, we're not dealing with the carbon fiber ThinkPad X1 Carbon finish, which I love, but this does get that staining. Very hard to do it, but inherently I do think over time it's going to not just show more fingerprints, but also turn a little bit. Those oil deposits from your hands. Usually the grades of material used on these machines, it doesn't show, but I don't think it's going to show it all here. So just food for thought. And the difference with the Lenovo badging, pretty stark. I mean, this is the ThinkPad standard. This is reimagined, so for whatever it's worth. Now let's go ahead and open the machine up. Again, a 14-inch 2.8K OLED. goes 180 degrees, as you just saw. It is a high gloss finish. It is reflective, but let's go ahead and turn this guy on. The insert here just letting you know where the camera kill switch is and the fingerprint power button is located on the keyboard deck. We do not have the pointer on here, which of course is a hallmark of these machines. I mean, really no ThinkPad exists other than this right now, to my knowledge, that is missing our pointer and secondary mouse capability. So like if I open up the ThinkPad X1 Carbon right here, you can see we've got that. And this is the hallmark of IBM ThinkPad, which now of course is owned by Lenovo, has been for many years. And of course the ability to have a left and right click, use it as a traditional pointing device, absent here. But what you do get is a glass haptic, very spacious trackpad, which I think a lot of you are going to be really happy with. The display looks very nice, at least at first boot here. And really, these are going to be the two machines to compete with one another, ironically, the two Lenovos, because they're both very close in weight. 2.8 pounds for this 14-inch machine, a little bit lighter with the X1 Carbon, of course. That really is a traveler's dream. But battery life is going to be very similar performance from the CPU, RAM configurations, and their integrated GPU performance. So again, full HD gaming is absolutely going to be plausible on this machine. What you'll have to keep settings to will vary title to title. So it's definitely a situation of, your mileage is going to vary. But Wi-Fi 7 on here, it's really the latest and greatest of everything with Lunar Lake. This is another one of the Taiwan Semi manufactured chips, and I'm expecting like 15 hours battery life out of this. This is a 120 hertz, again, 2.8K OLED display. If you go with the step down, the entry level configuration, I believe it's just a full HD, not 120 hertz, but 60 hertz panel. I believe it's IPS and not OLED, but I could be wrong. Could be an OLED panel. Don't remember off the top of my head. But the other thing you need to know is about the keyboard. Now, typically, ThinkPad keyboards are the best in the business. This is a little bit of a redesign, a rework, and it's because of this whole chassis and this being, again, a Gen 1 product. So we're not getting the 1.5 mil key travel that you're used to. It's, I think, 1.35. So not a huge difference, but still a difference. So this is going to be a little bit thinner. It may not give you that, what you're, I think, expecting from a ThinkPad experience, but I'm going to have to test it out and get the feel. But otherwise, everything else is here. They absolutely went with this minimalist approach of eliminating the ports by just slapping them on this hub. And it'll be interesting to see what this hub really yields. But so far, the machine sounds really quiet. I'm going to get things installed here and just get to testing it. But again, I'm expecting around 15 hours of battery life. I'm expecting to be able to do 4K video editing on here. I would not want to make this a video editing rig, of course, but on the road traveling, Lunar Lake is really competent. The Intel Arc 140V also really competent. So for photo and video editing, this is going to be a solid experience, not a editing machine again, but in a pinch, this is going to do it. And then when it comes to gaming, same story. I mean, that's the star of the show, besides the ability to run cool and quiet and add really copious amounts of battery life. It's the fact that these machines from Intel, yes, from Intel, deliver some best-in-class integrated performance. Now, they're not, in the range of AMD's latest and greatest integrated, but they are very close. And the fact that we can play something like GTA or Red Dead Redemption, Helldivers, I'm expecting all of these games to be doable at full HD, 720p, worst case scenario. That's amazing from a machine that gets 15 hours of battery life and really starts to match and mirror our, what we're used to with smartphones. You have a tiny charger to boot. I did not take out the other end of that, but it's in the box. And again, a little heavier than the X1 Carbon. The battery in here, I think, is 55 watt hours. If my memory serves, it's 57 in the X1. So a little more battery life in this smaller package with the X1 Carbon. The X1 Carbon is a much more expensive machine, and there's no question with the styling and everything here, I do think it lends itself to that ThinkBook rather than ThinkPad lineup. So it is an odd positioning on this, but from what I've seen, the webcam is also really good. So I'll be testing all of this out, and if it is able to deliver that battery life as well as expected performance that's in the same realm as the X1 Carbon, I think this becomes a really interesting option. In fact, I think a lot of people will ultimately prefer this because it's a lot less expensive than the X1 Carbon. And I think some people are going to prefer the styling. And remember, you've got a 14 and 15-inch model to pick from. The OLED looks good. Of course, I need to put it through some more testing. And the webcam on this, again, from what I've seen, is solid. And I like this new approach. Now, granted, the X1 Carbon does have better I/O. We have a Type A USB port, as well as HDMI and Thunderbolt connectivity. So it's got a little bit more going for it. I think missing the Type A here is going to be an issue for some, but not for most, believe it or not. After all, I think, Lenovo's approach here is to target Apple consumers at their core with these machines, because if you're an Apple user who's also been a PC user, which is likely because you really can't live on planet Earth and have a job without likely using a PC at one moment or another in your existence, then if what you've been waiting for is a laptop that is going to give you battery life and capability very similar, if not in some ways better than what a MacBook can do, these are the machines you've been waiting for. I mean, 15 plus hour battery life, great overall performance, even the ability to game, something MacBooks could only dream about doing, and then the fact that they can get battery, refilled so quickly with such a small and lightweight 65-watt Type-C based charger, which is also going to be able to charge your phone and pretty much every other accessory on planet Earth. You can see why these machines are so popular. And yes, we do still have the glowing eye, just like we do on the X1 Carbon, for those of you that were wondering, even though this is a brand new generation with very, I would say, well, not very, but different design language. They have not abandoned the heritage completely. But I want to know what all of you think. Are you okay with calling this a ThinkPad? Or do you think, like a lot of purists out there, there's only one true design language for the ThinkPad? It's been updated. Let's not reinvent the wheel. And should this really be living in, the ThinkBook realm? And if so, does that even really matter? Because at the end of the day, are you interested in a machine like this that I think starts at around $1,400-$1,500 and tips the scale at about $2,000? Again, this is that $2,000 model. I think it's actually the $1,900 model. I don't think this is the top spec, but 32 gigs of RAM. Again, a 1 terabyte NVMe. By the way, it is a 2242 PCIe drive, so it's not the standard 2280 that you might be expecting, but it is user upgradable, so that's good to know. Beyond that, remember, the RAM is soldered. It is on the chip. That is part of the beauty of this generation of Lunar Lake. But I'm digging this. I want to know what all of you think. Excited, to say the least, about this first-gen X9. I think Lenovo's going in the right direction. But should it be a ThinkPad or a ThinkBook? You tell me. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. And please stay safe. Later.